Hello, 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 and welcome back to this channel. If this is your very first time here, welcome to the place where the hottest K-pop news always drops first. And today, takes a long deep breath. We're talking about something that has shaken the entire K-pop community to its core. Not just ARMY, not just EXO, but all fandoms seem to be standing up and clapping at the same time. Because today we're covering this. Kai of EXO, one of the greatest dancers of his generation, speaking honestly, openly, and from the heart about his closest friend, Jimin of BTS, right in the middle of the most historic moment of the year, as Goyang Stadium roared with the energy of the BTS World Tour Erarang. If you're ready, get comfortable, put your earphones in, and don't miss a single second. Because this is not just another piece of news. This is a story about friendship, loyalty, and the respect one idol holds for his best friend. Okay, before we get into the heart of the story, we need to understand one thing first. Why is Goyang so important right now? On April 9th, 11, and 12, 2026, Goyang Stadium in South Korea became a witness to one of the most epic moments in modern K-pop history. BTS, 7 men who for years have been the most recognized name in the global music industry, finally returned to the stage after completing their mandatory military service. And this was no ordinary concert. This was the kickoff of the BTS World Tour Erarang, the biggest world tour they have ever embarked on, spanning more than 85 shows across 34 cities in 23 countries. The tour launched right after their 5th album, Erarang, exploded on the global charts, sitting at the top of the Billboard 200 for 2 consecutive weeks, with the lead single Swim hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 immediately upon release. Goyang itself was not a randomly chosen location. This city has been at the heart of K-pop for several years now. In 2025 alone, Goyang hosted the 2025 BTS Festa, the celebration of BTS's 12th debut anniversary, held at the Kintex Exhibition Center, drawing tens of thousands of fans from all around the world. Jhope held the final show of his solo world tour there. Jimin launched his fan concert solo tour from there. This city has truly become hallowed ground for ARMY. So when BTS chose Goyang as the starting point of their biggest world tour ever, the entire world knew this was serious. And right in the middle of that extraordinary euphoria, the name Kai EXO suddenly surfaced, and what he said about Jimin immediately shook every social media timeline in existence. Now, for those of you who might not be super familiar with Kai, let me take a moment to introduce him. Because without knowing who this person is, you simply won't be able to fully grasp how meaningful what he said truly is. Kim Jong-in, known to the world as Kai, is a member of EXO, one of the most iconic K-pop groups to ever exist. But beyond being just a member of EXO, Kai is widely regarded by many as one of the greatest dancers in the history of K-pop. Not only because of his flawless technique, but because he dances with soul. There is something in the way he moves that makes it impossible to look away. In 2020, he made his solo debut with the album Kai, and the track MMMH, which went viral immediately. In 2025, he held his first ever offline solo concert tour under the name Kana, covering 10 major cities across Asia, from Seoul all the way to Jakarta. And even after that tour wrapped, Kai still delivered a breathtaking performance at the Kyunghee University Fall Festival in October 2025, proving that his magnetism goes far beyond any formal concert setting. But there is one side of Kai that often flies under the public radar: his warm personality and his extraordinary loyalty to the people he loves. And that is exactly where his friendship with Jimin of BTS becomes deeply relevant. If you've been following K-pop for a while, you already know one name that always comes up when people talk about the most authentic and heartwarming cross-fandom friendship in the industry. Friendship Parkas, or as fans affectionately call it, the Padding Squad. This legendary friend group consists of Taemin of SHINee, Kai of EXO, Jimin of BTS, Ha Sungwoon formerly of 101, Ravi of VXX, and Timoteo of Hotshot, along with a few non-celebrity friends who have chosen to keep their lives private. The name, Friendship Parkas, was born from a genuinely sweet moment. Taemin once gifted all the members of this crew matching parka jackets as a present. And from that day forward, every single time they were spotted wearing those matching jackets together, fans absolutely melted. How did this group come together in the first place? Ha Sungwoon once shared the full story on an episode of Weekly Idol. According to Sungwoon, it all started with Timoteo, a former SM Entertainment trainee who had been close friends with Taemin and Kai long before their debut days. Then Kai brought Ravi into the circle, while Ha Sungwoon himself was the one who introduced Jimin BTS to the group, because Sungwoon had previously trained alongside Jhope of BTS, and it was through that connection that Jimin eventually found his way into the squad. What makes this friendship so special, admired not just by fans but by fellow idols as well, is its authenticity. Taemin himself once spoke about the dynamic of their group at a press conference. He revealed something that genuinely surprised people. Even though all of them are professional singers and dancers, when they get together, they never talk about work. When we get together, we shed our identities as singers and just treat each other like ordinary people, Taemin said at the time. Not idols, not celebrities, just ordinary friends enjoying each other's company. And Kai, the Kim Jong-un who on stage is so magnetic and intense, within this friend group is actually known as the funniest one. Yes, Kai himself once proudly claimed this on MBC's Radio Star. Out of the 7 of us, including myself, I am the funniest. While being stared at skeptically by his EXO members and the show's MCs alike. Fans erupted in laughter. That is Kai off stage, warm, natural, and completely real. Now we get to the very heart of today's video. Many of you might remember a moment that had been circulating for a while, but recently went massively viral again in the midst of all the BTS Arirang World Tour hype. The time Kai appeared on the program, Look Me Up from One the K Originals, in connection with his solo debut. On that program, Kai did something that has now become something of a tradition on variety shows. He searched his own name on the internet to see what people were writing about him. And one of the things he found was a post titled, 3 male idols who are genuinely great dancers. Inside that post, the 3 names mentioned were Taemin of SHINee, Jimin of BTS, and Kai of EXO himself. Now, put yourself in Kai's position for a second. You've just found your name listed alongside 2 of your closest friends on a list of the best dancers in the industry. How do you react? For some people, it might feel awkward because praising your friend could look like you're not being objective, but being too modest could come across as fake. But Kai handled it in the most elegant, most genuine, and most Kai way possible. For Taemin, he responded with full admiration. Oh, Taemin is a great dancer. And for Jimin, with that same calm, that same seriousness, without a moment of hesitation, Kai said, he's really great. For words. But every ARMY who heard it felt something shift inside their chest. Because this was not empty flattery. This was not a formality. This was an acknowledgement from one world-class dancer to another, from someone who knows exactly what it means to be truly great, because he himself is the standard of excellence in this industry. When Kai of EXO, someone fans themselves place on lists of the all-time greatest dancers, says Jimin is really great. That is not a small compliment. That is a maestro confirming what another maestro is worth. Now the question many of you might have is, why is this moment going viral again right now? The answer comes down to 2 things, timing and context. First, timing. We have just witnessed BTS returning to the stage for the first time after their military service, and they chose Goyang as their starting point. Goyang Stadium packed to the absolute brim for 3 consecutive nights. Jimin, who was discharged from mandatory military service in June 2025, is now standing once again under the blazing lights of a stadium, dancing at a level that left the entire world breathless. And in the middle of that euphoria, fans began digging back through every Jimin moment that had ever made them fall in love all over again, including the moment when Kai, his best friend from a different world, spoke about him with such pure sincerity. That clip of Kai from the Look Me Up program was shared thousands upon thousands of times across Twitter/X, TikTok, and every other platform imaginable. Fans created edits, reaction videos, and long detailed threads analyzing every single word Kai had said. Second, context. We know that Kai himself has just come off an incredibly busy year. The highly successful KON 2025 solo tour across 10 Asian cities. A show-stopping performance at the Kyunghee University Festival, and EXO preparing for their comeback album Reverse. Kai is at the absolute peak of his career. And yet, right in the middle of all of that, The fact that he once spoke about Jimin with such honor and sincerity makes those words feel even more precious. Because when two people who are both at the very top of this industry choose to acknowledge each other's greatness, that is not competition. That is the purest form of mutual respect. ARMY, watching all of this unfold in the glow of the Goyang concerts, understood it completely. Jimin's best friend sees what ARMY has always seen, and he said it out loud. Now let's talk about why the reaction from fans, both ARMY and EXL, has been so deeply emotional around all of this. First, you have to understand the long journey that came before. Jimin and BTS didn't just go through military service. They went through a long and heavy hiatus, during which fans had to learn how to wait without knowing exactly when the reunion they longed for would finally arrive. 3 years is a very long time for a fandom. And when BTS finally came back, when Jimin came back, and the world welcomed him with a packed Goyang Stadium, with Arirang at the top of the Billboard 200, with the biggest world tour they had ever announced, the feelings that poured out weren't just joy. There was a deep gratitude. There were tears that simply could not be held back. In the middle of all of that, revisiting the moment when Kai spoke about Jimin, with a sincerity that hadn't changed, with an acknowledgement that was never influenced by trends or algorithms, made many fans feel that Jimin is truly surrounded by people who see him and value him for exactly who he is. One comment that went viral on Twitter/X read something like this: Kai didn't have to say that. He could have stayed neutral or avoided the topic entirely. But he said, "Really great," without a single hesitation. That means he genuinely believes it. And that comment was retweeted hundreds of thousands of times. There were also long fan threads comparing the dancing styles of Kai and Jimin, both known for their ability to express emotion through movement, not just through technique. Both carry something that cannot be taught in any practice studio anywhere in the world: soul. EXL also reacted with warmth. Many said how proud they were of Kai, not just as a dancer, but as a human being who knows how to honor a friend in the most graceful way possible. And yes, there were tears. Because sometimes in a K-pop world filled with fandom rivalries and hashtag wars, seeing two idols from different fandoms genuinely honor each other like this feels like an oasis in the middle of a desert. But I want to invite all of you to look beyond just the virality of a clip or a statement. There is something deeper here, and it applies to fans and to anyone who follows the world of K-pop. Kai and Jimin, two people born in the same era, 1994 and 1995, just months apart, who both began their journeys as trainees in an incredibly competitive industry, who both know exactly what it feels like to push themselves to the absolute limit to become the best, chose to lift each other up, not tear each other down. In a world where the media so often pits idols against each other for clicks and engagement, where fandoms can go to war over comparisons that were never necessary in the first place, the friendship between Kai and Jimin serves as a reminder that the truly great ones never need to prove themselves by diminishing someone else. Kai didn't say, "Jimin is good, but I'm better." He didn't say, "Yeah, he's a decent dancer." He said, "He's really great." No qualifiers, no asterisks. Direct, sincere, and full of respect. And Jimin, who at Goyang Stadium stood beneath the light of hundreds of thousands of ARMY bombs, dancing in a way that left an entire stadium speechless. He may not have needed to know that his best friend said those words on an internet program. But the world knows. ARMY knows. EXL knows. And that is enough. Okay, let's do a quick update on what has actually been happening in Goyang over the past few days. The opening night of the BTS World Tour Arirang on April 9th, 2026 is being described by those who were there in person as one of the most historic nights in BTS's entire career. All 7 members, RM, Jin, Suga, Jhope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, were fully present on stage together, with a 360-degree setup unlike anything that has ever been done at this scale before. They performed songs from the brand new Arirang album, while also bringing back iconic hits like Dynamite, Butter, and the songs that have served as anthems for millions of ARMY all over the world. The ocean of ARMY bombs glowing across every inch of Goyang Stadium created a sight that, even if you only watch the fan cam through your phone screen, gives you chills you simply cannot explain. And Jimin? On the Goyang stage, Jimin wasn't just dancing. He was telling a story. Every movement carried a narrative. Every expression carried an emotion. Exactly as Kai acknowledged, truly great. For night 2 on April 11th, BTS swapped some songs in the set list. Take 2 and DNA came in to replace 2 other tracks. And night 3 on April 12th brought yet another different version of the set list, with the legendary Bumnar, Spring Day, standing out as one of the most emotional highlights of the entire run. 3 nights, 1 city, millions of memories. And after Goyang, this tour moves on to Tokyo, then crosses over to North America, Europe, Latin America, Australia, and back through Asia. More than 85 total shows running all the way through March 2027. This is only the beginning. And that is what makes this moment so special, everyone. In a world that moves so fast, in an industry filled with pressure and competition, there are 2 people who chose to be truly real friends to each other, who celebrate each other's greatness, who never needed the media to validate their friendship, who knew each other long before Goyang Stadium was packed full, and will still know each other long after every tour date is done. Kai spoke about Jimin with the kind of honor that only a friend who genuinely sees the value in another person is capable of giving. And Army, who for years has walked alongside Jimin through every high and every low, felt that validation in the most personal way imaginable. Because sometimes, what we need isn't just the applause of a packed stadium. Sometimes it's one sincere sentence from someone who truly knows. He's really great. For words. From Kai. For Jimin. In front of the whole world. And Army, today, cannot possibly disagree. If this video moved you, made you happy, or just made you smile to yourself, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with any Army or EXWell you know. Because content like this is exactly what makes our K-pop community feel warm and human. Drop KI and Jimin fire in the comments if this friendship makes you proud. And if you have your own favorite story or moment involving Kai or Jimin, share it down below. See you in the next video. And remember, on this channel, we always celebrate K-pop with love. Purple Heart.